Welcome everyone on this cold, windy day to the nice Warm Wheels Museum. I'm very thrilled to have a good friend with me today. And not only is Andrew Delgado a good friend of the Wheels Museum, when it comes to devotion and dedication to a project, there's no one to beat him. He's, I think, our youngest volunteer, but he's here whenever he can be, and he does incredible work. He's meticulous, he's interesting, he's kind to everyone, and he's a real asset to the Wheels Museum. So Andrew, could you please tell us what you'd like to do here, what your project is?
Well, when I first got here, the first thing I saw at the front was the miniature live steam locomotive, the Atlantic, which, I mean, even before, like, my first years here, which I actually started back when I was 14, but I'm pretty sure this was before you even started. Unless I
Oh no, I've been doing this 30 years.
Then I probably didn't meet you then.
Maybe not.
But, well, I didn't last long because I was 14 years old. And, well, I was the kind that I wanted to be here by myself to work on things.
Oh.
And, well, my dad was here, of course, as much as I could. But I couldn't help but, you know, come and do things, try as much as I could. So eventually, well, I had to go. But until recently, about, exactly a year ago, I came back, and, well, there were new people, learning a lot, especially from my partner Chuck, which I say he's my boss, essentially. Yeah. But the big thing that I really wanted to focus on was giving the Wheels Museum a more interactive attraction.
Thank you.
And that was the live steam locomotives here, which the first one was the Atlantic, which that one was already basically ready and set to go since it was on a rolling road, it was on a trestle, even though this is a 700-pound miniature steam locomotive, and the trestle was already beginning to sag under its weight. And from when you told me, the locomotive was originally donated from Explorer.
Yes.
Yeah. From what I could tell, the kids did not treat it right, because when I started working on it, I found money, I found plastic spiders in the smoke box, and I found the inside, which the inside for the exhaust system, it had fallen in and it was just sitting there. So when I got it back into there, it was it wasn't in terrible shape, but it was in need of some care. But about a few months later, it was running under compressed air, and now people can see it running in place and blow the whistle, and they get a good idea as what it's like to actually run a steam locomotive. Even if it's a small one, it's still strong enough to haul up to 19 full-size people behind it when in live steam.
That's fabulous. I hope we can get it running so that it can do that. I can't thank you enough. The amount of intricate work that you put into it and the way you treat the visitors is just fabulous. And I'm assuming that you would like more people of your age to come along and
I would like
volunteer. And so if there's anybody out there who is great like Andrew and wants to learn how to run a steam locomotive or do other exhibits at Wheels Museum, we'd love to have you come and do that.
I mean, of all the things we need more of is just more interactive exhibits, because the kids, you already know that they're kind of all over the place, you know, touching knobs, pressing buttons and things like that. I mean, on the Atlantic, I won't let any kid that is, you know, how do I say, not in a certain height or a certain intelligence range allow them to run it.
Sure,
because
be safe.
Despite its size, it is still a steam locomotive. And it is still a machine that can hurt you.
That's right.
So, it is pretty important that I make sure of that.
Safety is number one, of course, yeah.
Very much.
And education number two, and funds number also two. Rob, I think you brought something to show us today also.
This right here is one of my personal steam engines. This is my Maba 1960s live steam traction engine. Which, this right here is what was considered a toy back then. And nowadays, if a parent was presented this, which literally has a real burner and real steam in it, I don't think you can imagine that they'd handle it very well.
How old is this?
She's about 63 years old now.
She, it's a girl. Okay, she.
Well, it's more sort of, I mean, you know how people refer to boats and trains as a she. It's more
she's 63 years old. She's in beautiful shape.
Oh, very. In fact, she is. I fired her up last week, and I'm planning on firing her up today. She does just as beautifully as the day I got her.
How did you get her?
She was gifted to me as a Christmas present, And, well, she came all the way from the UK where she was built.
So I was going to ask you, where was it built?
It was made in the UK and, well, came here to America. I know one thing this has taught me, which this one is basically bare bones compared to the Atlantic.
Right.
But it is still important to understand these in order to even understand the large ones, which is actually why I brought this as an example. Which, the larger the locomotive, the more moving parts there are, the more expensive it can be. In fact, for this engine, the oil that it requires in order for the cylinder to stay lubricated and constantly moving, especially one like this, which is an oscillating cylinder engine, this tiny little piece of oil right here, this was a $20 bottle.
Oh my gosh.
So,
What kind of oil is that?
this right here, but it's code Z83.
Oh, something we
Which,
don't know.
this right here is for the smaller engines, which this is for specifically steam. It's made to handle high pressures and
Wow,
moisture
wow.
and constant use of wear and tear.
What is the value of the
This
of
engine,
her? Do you think?
if it's in good condition like this, it can be
Yeah.
worth up to about $400.
Beautiful.
Especially if it has everything, which mine came with almost everything, including its original box.
Oh,
which
wow.
I still have at home.
Wow.
It's-
You know, I don't know if I told you, I was in Iceland not long ago, and I saw one in Iceland, but it was not for sale. Yeah.
One of the
They're
full-size
so
ones,
rare.
or just
No,
one?
like just exactly like the, yeah, they're rare. It was in Iceland.
Well, rare in America.
Yeah,
In the
yeah.
UK, you could probably still find one, even though they just don't make them anymore because parents probably shouldn't let kids have these.
Sure. Now, what does that say on the side there?
Oh, this right here is Mammoth Steam Tractor, which
Mammoth
this
steam tractor.
Mammoth is the company that made this, which Mammoth is short for Mallin's Models.
I see.
Which they made other types of
adorable.
things like steam cars, stationary steam engines. They even made locomotives that you could
Really?
run on little G-scale track.
Oh,
And
how wonderful.
they were quite the cool company.
It's so kind of you to bring it down, and I hope people will come down and see it when you're here with it,
Which
and of course see the Atlantic too, and all the other projects you're working on.
Which one project I'm hoping, which you mentioned earlier, how someday maybe we could have the Atlantic actually hauling people behind it.
I would love that, sure.
As much as I would like it, I think one locomotive that is a little bit more viable is our locomotive called Mike, which that one is our oldest real live steam locomotive here, which despite it being smaller than the Atlantic, it is more powerful, it is older, and it is the only one here that is not made in a factory. It was entirely handmade by one person named Grafton McLinish, who painstakingly built the entire thing in his basement and took it to his live steam club.
I hope you get from this description by Andrew how important these things are to us and to the community and to history and what you're doing and what we're going to continue to do, and we're so thankful to you for all of this great help. So don't forget to come and join us and
We
and
could
work
really
with us
use
and
that.
help. Yeah, we really could.
Even if they're small locomotives, they still need a lot of hands.
Oh yeah, and the model trains. You also work with the model trains.
Yes, the model trains.
And that requires constant dusting and
Constant
working.
dusting,
Yeah.
lubricated. The smaller the engine gets, the more tedious it can be. But it also depends, such as, one other thing I work on is the large locomotive here in town, 2926. Yes, it's easier to access those parts, kinda. Because one thing about them is the larger the parts, the larger the tools.
Yes, and heavy and dangerous.
Very heavy.
Did you see on the new G scale that we have a new car that is a car that cleans the track?
Yes.
Have you seen that? Yeah.
We have quite a few of
A car
those
that
in-
just cleans track. So it's a constant problem, and with all the dust we're having and wind and everything.
We have a saying on the layout, it's dust is our #1 enemy.
Yeah.
Which is constant.
It
Especially
is.
because when dust gets into the mechanism of some of them, like worm gears or gears in general, especially on some of the youngest model we have here is about 9 years old, which every other model we have is either 30, 40, and the oldest of which is 79 years old, and they still run around, they're still doing their job. But the dust, if it gets into those parts, it can wear them down quicker, and, well, where would the trains be? We gotta get to those, so.
That's right. We're working on a major project, which I mentioned before. I don't know if you've heard the latest good news, but the city council is very interested in our acceptance of the Babbitt and Welding Shop.
Yes!
Yes, for the New Mexico Model Railroad Center. So we're working with city council and with legislators to get that building, because we are bursting at the seams with exhibits in here, and we need more space. So we want to work with other clubs, other people who want to donate model train exhibits, and that's about 5,000 square feet. So that would help us to enlarge our exhibits. So if you're interested in the support of that idea for grandpas and nice people like Andrew and younger people and all kinds of people who can benefit from learning about these
Or
trains.
if you're like me and just never grew up.
There you go, that's right, and want to have fun and know the technology and the history and educational part of this. We certainly are working on that project too.
And it makes it even more appropriate because currently I'm in college trying to get
Yes.
my welding certificate.
Yes, I was
And
going to
that
ask
is-
you, yeah.
That is the welding shop.
And-
So
yeah, that's exactly right.
seems a little
So the decades have gone by, and we're still trying to improve our culture, our society, and jobs for men. So that's, I was going to ask you about college. It's going well, isn't it?
it's going all right, but it's going as well as it can right now.
But I'm happy you're doing that. I'm happy you're going to do welding because we need welding.
You don't
We do
say.
need welding, and so you'll be able to do that, and that'll be great. And then you'll have to teach me welding. I've always wanted to learn welding.
You're gonna need to put on a bunch of masks.
Okay, all
So
right.
if you were during the pandemic and you came here and you had to wear a mask and you complained, don't be a welder.
But you can see how Andrew is learning so many things and ready to pass that on to the next group, so
I mean, that's the whole reason I'm here in the first place.
thank you so much.
Because,
Wonderful.
well, the art of the steam locomotive has
Yeah.
been, ever since they were retired, essentially, in 1956, and even more so, like, recently in China, the very last standard gauge entire steam fleet, like, this railway was ran by steam locomotives up until 2023, and they finally closed after about 70, 90 years of operating under steam locomotives only. They finally have closed. And the locomotives, we don't know.
Mhm.
And with those locomotives, those lessons to be learned, those techniques, just like how farming is nowadays, a lot of people don't know where our food comes from. It's in a similar state. We gotta keep teaching people how this is done so that these methods can be reused in the
That's
future.
right. That's exactly right. And how hard it was to build our country and
How
we
hard it
appreciate
was, and
having-
well,
Yeah,
some of those techniques are being reused now.
that's
There
right.
are some areas in the world that are reinventing the steam locomotive for new uses or
Mhm.
better technologies, more safety, more fuel economy, things like that.
Yeah,
But where would they come from if it wasn't
if
for...
they didn't know we had a call this morning from a woman who's coming in this morning. Her father worked here on the rail yards for 45 years.
What?
Yeah, so she's gonna bring us all the pictures from her father, and she said some of them are so old, they're on cloth. It's gonna be very fascinating to see that this morning, so almost every day we're getting new exhibits here, and people are coming to us with their family's history, and she said she's thrilled because she found all these pictures and what should she do with them. You know, so if you want them saved for our country, bring them here
seriously.
to us. Yeah.
I mean, that's what a whole museum is for. I
That's
mean,
right.
there are some steam locomotives that haven't been able to see the light of preservation.
That's
Because museums like this, either they aren't supported or they just don't have the room. We're slowly building up a little bit more room, like she said, about the welding shop, and who knows? There's also updates on our turntable, but you'll see that in the future probably.
And we are putting a new track behind the Wheels Museum on the east side for private rail cars, so very excited about that, and working with 2926 and they're
Visitors.
putting a new track, and so a lot of good
Fun.
things happening here.
Sad part is, if think about something before you throw it away. Yes, maybe if it's like a plastic spoon, maybe that's a little bit. Don't think about that too much. But if it's something not seen much anymore.
That's right.
One locomotive that a lot of rail fans like me wish was saved was the Norfolk and Western Y6P. There's a picture of one right there, the second down on the right. That right there was deemed the strongest successful steam locomotive ever built. There were about 200 made, and none of them are left. And the last one was
Sad.
used on a farewell to steam excursion, and it was supposed to be saved, but they didn't have the time or the room to accommodate it.
Yeah,
And it was lost to time.
and it's expensive I think they put about $4 million in 29, 26, and
It was about
20 years.
$6.5 million.
Is it now?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, she is the second largest operating steam locomotive in the world currently.
Yeah, we're
so,
very thrilled to have that here, and we hope, and its home is here on the rail yard, so
Yes.
we're working and hoping that baby will come home, that she will come home to us.
Not merely much of a baby, but more like a
A giant.
very much
a million
giant.
giant. Yeah.
I mean, the engine itself weighs more than that of the Union Pacific Big Boy, which is still considered the largest steam locomotive in the world. So,
So we're very lucky, from the littlest to the biggest we have it here.
yeah, very much.
Mhm.
We may have a small room, but we can accommodate some interesting things.
That's right. Andrew, you've been wonderful today, and I think you have a special story to tell.
Yes.
Tell us what that is.
So this is the story of how I actually got really into railway preservation, which during the pandemic, everyone was kind of, everyone was trapped, everyone was indoors, everyone not really could go many places. But the places that I could go to, they weren't special to some people, but to me, they're the reason I'm here today. Which one trip was a road trip that me and most of my family took from here all the way to Boston.
Oh.
And on the way there, I met my very best friend, who is in Ohio. I met him on the internet. His name is Josh. In fact, there's a model train in the back there that I've named after him. It's a little red one. You might see it running around once it gets a new part. But I met him there at a locomotive known as the 2100, which was a locomotive specifically chosen by Ross Roland for the American Freedom Train as a parts donor for his engine. But then afterwards, it went through probably dozens of different owners, and it ended up in Canada, and it almost was lost forever. Until, well, these guys in Ohio, they bought the locomotive and transported it all the way from Washington to Cleveland, Ohio, and they'd been restoring it. And I had wanted to see it as I'd been fascinated by this story.
Wow.
And, well, not only was I there with my best friend to see this, but I was there to see what then became my favorite all-time steam locomotive in existence. It is a awesome piece of machinery. It may be smaller than 2926 by a huge amount, but it is a true World War II era locomotive that was rebuilt from previous smaller ones and just continued to earn its worth over time. And seeing it in person, I felt like I was meeting a celebrity in a sense.
Yes,
a
of
celebrity.
course. It is.
It was a little bit disassembled. It was more like meeting a celebrity when they're in the back room getting their makeup done.
That's well put.
But
That's well put.
ever since that day, and when they gave me 2 staples from the locomotive's firebox, they gave Josh one too. I have kept those staples, and I want to donate one to the museum someday with a nice display for it.
That would be wonderful.
But those moments with seeing this locomotive under repair and seeing the roundhouse, which was still under repair, and seeing that they weren't getting that much support. And so when I came back here, I realized I should probably put in some work here.
Oh.
And, well,
It's very gratifying. I appreciate that so much. Well, it's true. We don't know what minute inspires someone for life. That's a very good point. And also, another point that you're making that I love is the fact that we don't throw things away here. We keep everything.
as much as possible,
As much
yes.
as possible. I mean, if it's completely, like you said, a plastic spoon. But generally, if we can't use it, we give it away or sell it or do something. We try to keep we just got a big exhibit that we're taking apart, and everybody has a little piece of it, and all the volunteers, this one wants this and that one wants that, and we make use of everything.
As much as we can.
As much as we possibly
we try
can.
to, instead of throwing it away, we try to reuse as much as possible.
We can. We have exhibits in libraries and other places, and we're always going to events, and the market's going to start in May, so we'll be doing that again, but always expanding and something new to see.
Just like the world.
Just like the world, we hope just like the world, exactly. Expanding and improving, that's our goal.
Some say it's a small world, but you haven't seen it yet then.
That's a wonderful story, I love that story. That's great, and don't ever not be here. Always be here, remember that.
I'm trying.
Because once you're with wheels forever, that's all there is to it.
You'll be with us forever!
We just lock the door and that's it.
Lock the door!
That's right, that's exactly right. We had some very, not on the subject of trains, but we had some very interesting news this morning. We got a call from someone who works with Eclipse Aviation, and they're interested in donating a jet to us, so we're working on that. Last week, we hung a full-size wooden airplane.
That's been
If you haven't seen that,
That one's been under construction for quite a while.
Yeah.
I've been seeing the slow process,
Oh, yeah.
and it looks like it may hit you.
yeah,
if you
it's
look at
big.
it at the right angle.
It's big, it's an 800-hour job and all wood, and we didn't cover it with anything. We wanted people to be able to see the construction of this airplane.
And
so,
it's great.
And it's great, it's fabulous, so, yeah. And if you haven't seen our new G-scale up above and the ceiling up here, that's another great thing.
We just
Lot of
got
new
that one
photographs.
in, and
Yeah, we're putting in lots of new showcases within the next few weeks. A lot of new things coming. Come and see us.
we could always use the support, especially because, like I said, maintaining steam locomotives or maintaining any of this equipment
Yeah.
is kind of a hassle at times, especially because they don't really make parts for some of this stuff anymore. So, if you can, or if you have a day off or something, you have a little cash. We don't take entry fees, of course, but if you have $1 or $2, don't hesitate to put it in the donation box. So.
That's how we exist, we're volunteers. Andrew, you're just wonderful. I want to thank you again, and you're good on the podcast, and you're good with the customers and with the technical things, so
I'm
all around perfect.
There's a reason I like to work in areas like this, because I'm very social.
That's good, that's what we want. We're all social here, and we get that compliment quite a bit, that people love to come in here and talk to the volunteers, because we explain everything, and we're kind to them, and they enjoy that.
I mean, why not make them feel welcome a little?
One of our volunteers told me recently he went to another museum, I won't mention it, in another state, and it was a big museum. I said, "Did you have a great time? It was a train museum." He said, "No, I didn't enjoy myself." I said, "Why not?" He said, "No one talked to me." Well, that won't happen if you come here. We'll talk to you.
We will.
Yeah, so please come and see us. We're open Monday through Thursday mornings from 9 to 12, Saturdays 10 to 2, and May through October on Sundays 10 to 2. So we'll be waiting for you. So now I'd like to tell you some of the things that are coming up that we hope you'll come to. We have something really important next week, April 13th. We're going to have a lecture by Ronn Perea about the Bataan Death March. And he calls it Summoning All New Mexicans, because this is such an important and gripping, sad period in our history. I've had several people call me last week who said they had relatives who survived or did not survive this horrific time, but it's very important, and he's going to be talking to us from 11 to 12 on April 13th. There's no charge for that. Again, we do take donations. On April 25th through 27th, we're going to participate in the New Mexico State History Conference. That will be at Embassy Suites Hotel, so if you want to come to the history conference, please join us over there as well, and wheels will be open. On the 27th at 12 o'clock, we have a balloon pilot speaking to us. The Balloon Museum is collaborating with us, and we're very, very happy about that. National Train Day will be May 11th. On May 11th also, from 11 to 12, we're having the Color Wheels Toy Company coming here, and they're doing an interactive event for children. Well, they're going to learn how to make a cute little interactive technical item. So there's no charge for that, so please bring children to that. On May 18th at 2 o'clock, we're having a speech about the atomic bomb in Albuquerque, and that's by Roland Pentilla, and he's a fabulous speaker. He's going to talk about the time the atomic bomb landed in Albuquerque. So that's something not everybody knows about.
And for the subject, I'll just say nuclear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Puns.
but it's an important speech also. On May 25th, we're having a wonderful event. The Chinese American Association is coming here, and we're going to have a talk about the contribution of the Chinese people to the railroads. And Fred Friedman is giving that lecture. He was the head of transit of the state of New Mexico. He's a fabulous speaker. And also, we're going to have some refreshments and a dance performance. So folk dancing by the Chinese group. There's no charge for that event. So please come to that. That's going to be super fun. On June 1st, we're having Western music by Doug Figgs, and if you've ever seen him here, he's great. He brings Badger. Badger is his dachshund dog, and everybody loves Badger, and Badger participates in the performance. That's a lot of fun. On June 15th, we're going to have a talk about historic Route 66 at 11 o'clock. That's also Ronn Perea. That is going to be very interesting. On July 20th at noon, Steve Cormier, who has been in Breaking Bad, he's played Wyatt Earp, quite a famous actor, is going to be performing country music, and that's a $10 fee to come to see him. On August 10th, this is very interesting, I think. At 11 o'clock, Phil and Roseanne Archuleta, who've written several books about New Mexico markers, are coming to speak to us, 11 o'clock. So if you go out and you drive around the state of New Mexico and you see these markers, now you can learn about them. And I've always been interested, because sometimes when you're driving you don't stop, but they've written books about it and about the women who are involved, men are involved. So this should be a very, very good speech. And then on August 18th at 2 o'clock, we have a nationally famous performer coming, Joel Alden White. He's going to play country western music, and that's $10 to hear him at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So those are just some of the things coming up. We're always looking for more events. So if you have an idea to have an event here, have a performance, please let us know. We're here to educate the public and make it interesting for them, and especially anything about transportation or history. So,
And who knows, maybe
Thank
we can
you.
do something crazy with the model trains. Just an idea.
we just had a presentation about how to build dioramas. We do things like that. We had a group of Boy Scouts in today. So we're looking to help the public in any way we can with what we do here.
You got any ideas? Just leave them.
We had a huge compliment the other day. A fireman came in and he said to us, "You are raising the Titanic." I think that's the most beautiful compliment. We are trying to save the history of things that otherwise, as you describe, Andrew, would be gone.
I mean, I still can't believe this whole facility is still here. I mean, every time I walk in, I look away from the door at one of the stalls for the boiler shop, and I keep thinking that at one point 2926 would have been in one of those.
Sure, machine shop, yeah. And you probably all know that the whole site would have been torn down if we hadn't saved it. So we're happy to have you come and see it. Well, thank you.